Hi there everybody, it's Martin Twycross bringing you another live question and answer class on YouTube. As always, bringing you practical down-to-earth teachings on mediumship without the fluff. So this live question and answer class is an opportunity for you all to ask me any questions you like. Basically any questions on mediumship, development related topics. Technically any questions you like is pushing it a bit, isn't it? Because you might ask me about something entirely unrelated that I couldn't answer. So if you have any questions, you can start putting them in the chat box. But as I say, this class, I run it once a month, usually at the end of the month. The date varies, but I do publish it on the YouTube channel so you can see in advance a couple of weeks early when it will be. So it's an opportunity to bring any class, any questions you have along for me to answer. I will always do my best to answer them. The class typically runs for about 2 hours tops, finished by 9 my time. So I'm hoping you can all hear me. If you can hear me, do type something in the chat box just so that I know, because it'd be a bit of a shame if I was just broadcasting to myself. So, and if you have any questions, you can start putting them in the chat box, as I say. So if you do want to have your questions answered, this is a great opportunity. Type them in the chat box and I'll come on to them in just a moment. So Lady Oak, hello, lovely to see you. Glad you could make it. So at least one person can hear me. That's a good start, I think. So since my last live question answer, I've done a number of updates on the channel. Let me talk you through what's been on the channel since I last was on. So we have uploaded the final part in the Sitting in the Power series, the 4th part, and that was 5 more reasons, 5 more challenges that you're likely to encounter with Sitting in the Power. More aimed at what I would call people already working with it. And many questions that get asked to me on Sitting in the Power are covered in that video. If you've not seen that video, well worth checking out. I've also uploaded as well a free full-length class called Mediums Ambassadors for Spirit, which is a fascinating class, and it looks at mediumship from the point of view of spirit, because spirit need us as their medium. So it's what are they looking for in their medium? That's well worth checking out. It's about 45 minutes long. I know it's a bit of a long one, but if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. And somebody did post in the comments that they thought that the quality was platinum on that one, not just gold, but platinum. I've also uploaded another 2 on the Children in Spirit series, our children in spirit and your loved ones in spirit anyway close to us. And also a whole bunch of complex questions about why did your child pass, about reincarnation, about when does the soul join the fetus, and suicide, and all sorts of other complex, challenging questions. Well worth checking out if you haven't checked them out. So there's quite a few, as I say, new additions to the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, then it's always worth doing that. Then you'll get notified of new updates, and you'll also get notified of the live streams as well. So if there are any questions, do pop them in the chat box and I will get started on them. Good to see you, Keith and Jane. So also just a reminder as well that I have a new course starting on the 18th of July. Let me see if I can bring that up for you. It's called Better Private Readings. It's 4 2-hour classes. The cost is a very reasonable £60. And we're going to do an absolute deep dive on private sittings, private readings. No matter what level you are, whether you just do them as practice readings or whether you're doing them professionally, I'm going to take you through a deep dive of all of it and go into it in a great deal of detail, more detail than I've ever covered before. And that should be fascinating. So if you are interested in that, do sign up for it on my website. As I say, you can see a link there. You can get that through my store and my website. Details, of course, in the description. And I'll put details in the comments as well for you. So I do have a Facebook group as well. Let me go back to our normal screen. I do have a Facebook group as well called Mediumship Teachings with Martin Twycross. If you're on Facebook, you can join me there as well. I do try and keep that updated with various quotes, various videos, various posts to keep your interest. So you can join me there as well. So where are we? Excellent. So the way it works as well is when questions are asked, I work through them one by one. If you are short on time and you want to get your question answered sooner than that, you can ask a question by clicking on the super chat, and that is the little $sign that should appear, I believe, in the bottom corner of your your chat box. If it's not there, do let me know. It should be there. So you can always ask a question with Super Chat. It gives me a small donation. You can also make donations as well through PayPal, through my PayPal me link, which is on the ticker and also which is in the chat box. If you look at the chat box right at the very top, there is a pinned chat with details of the PayPal link as well. I do offer this evening for free. And, you know, but if you want to make a donation to support my work, that is always greatly appreciated as well. And Alessandra, you said you bought the Sit in the Power audio and you love it. That's wonderful to hear. I love it too. Which is why I created it. Okay, so we have the first question, and hopefully we'll have a few more questions appearing soon, I'm hoping. So first question, what is a good exercise to work on your clairvoyance? And, you know, you could equally ask about clairsentience, clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairknowing. And the thing is, what we have to understand is that the psychic senses unfold within us in a certain pattern, in a certain way. Generally, for most people, clairvoyance is the first one to unfold, but not always. It depends upon what we say your predominant modality is. I talk about this in a great deal of detail in my teaching video, Mediumship in the Mind. I also go through it as well in a great deal of detail in my Getting Better Evidence course, if you're interested in drilling down into the detail. But many people say, let us just improve that clair, and it's not as easy as that. I've come to the conclusion over time that our clairs unfold depending upon where we are at in our development. So where we are at in our development determines what is unfolding within our mediumship. From my own personal experience, clairvoyance started strongly, then diminished, and clairsentience came up. Then they kind of balanced each other out, and then clairknowing came up more strongly. And even to this day, I struggle to think of whether I have any real true clairaudience. For me, words appear within my mind, but ultimately, you know, they're in my mind, but is it true clairaudience? I don't know. So how do you work on clairvoyance? And there isn't really a simple exercise to give you other than trying to look for it, trying to focus it. One of the exercises we do to help you isolate how you're working is to look at how you're working and see how you're receiving things. You've got a man there. How do you know you've got a man there? Have you seen him? Do you feel him? What information is giving you man? Are you seeing a man written out within your mind? And, you know, if you focus upon your clairvoyance, you're more likely to improve it. If you focus upon observation of people, just in general with your normal eyesight, if you look at somebody and think, how would I describe them if I saw them? You know, let's look at a normal person and how would you describe them? And if you like, it sharpens up your visual awareness. So I would say really the simple answer is focus on it. Some people will tell you to meditate upon the third eye, but for me, I don't go that route. For me, there's a lot of exercises that really, I would argue, are a bit flaky, if I'm honest. So I've tried meditating on my third eye, made no difference whatsoever to my clairvoyance. Your mileage, of course, may vary. Okay, so I hope that's helped you in some way. I know it's probably not the answer you expected, but I'm a firm believer that when we're in the right place, the psychic senses unfold naturally as we develop and move. So Alessandra, your question is, if you call in spirit and don't feel that energy like you used to, does that mean they're not there and don't want to communicate with you? So, you know, recognize that we don't call in spirit. We move and blend with the spirit world. And then we invite a spirit world. Then we invite a communicator from spirit to join with us. That's the key. So we're blending with the spirit world. We're moving our mind to the spirit world, and we invite someone forward to blend with us. And different personalities will feel different, clearly. If you've got somebody who's a very strong, forceful personality, you'll feel them. If you've got someone who's shy and a bit not sure, they might be stand back, and it's like, are they there? Are they not? So we've got to recognize spirit's personality will affect it. Now, I also did a video called 7 Reasons Why Your Mediumship May Seem to Be Getting Worse When It's Not. And it's basically, as we develop more, we don't need the feeling as strong, we don't need the image as strong, and it feels like we're going backwards when we're not. So I highly recommend you check out that video, I think there's 7 reasons in there. Several of those may actually help you as well as you go through that. But it does, the key thing is, have you blended as well with spirit? Remember, it's all about the blend with spirit. If you don't blend well with spirit, for whatever reason, if you're not in a good place mentally, emotionally, then sometimes we're not in the right place to get it working really well. So you've got to bear that in mind as well. That can play a significant part in the mix. Absolutely. So I hope that gives you some clues. But the simple answer is, I can't really diagnose it for you. You've got to diagnose it for yourself. That's clear. So yeah. But check out that video, 7 reasons why, if you haven't already done it. And fingers crossed, it will make sense for you. Now, ES has just posted a question in Top Chat. Thank you very much for that. That's much appreciated. Question is, could you please explain how mediums shape their beliefs on the afterlife? Why some good mediums believe and some don't in contracts? And if you've seen my video on children in spirit complex questions, which I released a couple of weeks ago, then you'll find that I actually am one of those mediums who do not believe in a sacred contract or a contract that is written before you come here, for the simple reason in my own case that I don't believe your life is scripted. I believe you have qualities that can be expressed within this lifetime. I believe there are things you can come to do within this lifetime, but depending upon where you're born in the world, depending upon the opportunities that are available to you, will determine whether you can do it easily or whether those qualities will be expressed in other ways. So where do mediums get their beliefs from? Very obvious. They get it from information they have access to, whether that's things they read, videos they see on YouTube, information they get from other mediums and teachers and tutors. So depends on what you are exposed to as to what you take on board. And of course, we have to apply our logical reasoning and say, does this fit for me? Does it not? Is it right? Is it not? And we've got to choose it for ourselves. With myself, a great deal of my information on the afterlife comes through my own trance mediumship, my guides and helpers. I've been sitting for trance now with the guides talking for well over 10 years. And I generally sit a couple of times a month. We're talking hundreds of trance sessions. We've asked every question we can think of to the guides and helpers, and they've answered, and they've spoken at length on the afterlife. And that's where a great deal of my own beliefs come from. And they tell us that there is no such thing as a sacred contract. The time we come is fixed. There's, if you like, a loose window, which would be the ideal time to go. But, medical profession can keep you alive. And with advances in treatment, we can stay here longer, or we could go sooner. But if you like, there's a time to come and a time to go that's a little bit more loose. Then we bring the qualities we bring to be expressed in certain ways. But again, remember, you've got free will, you've got choice. You choose the way in which you express those qualities. So I hope that all makes sense to you. And I hope that answers your question. And why some don't believe in sacred contracts, you've got to ask them. But for me, I can never take anything anyone tells me at face value. I've always got to test it. Does it fit with what feels right for me, with my soul, with my reasoning, with my logic? And I have to take it to the spirit world. And what do they say about it? And we'll look at that as well. So great question. I enjoyed that one. Okay, let's see where we are. Where did we get to? Anastasia, hello to you. Okay, next question. Amar. In your experience, would you say that mentally seeing non-human beings more so than humans is a sign of mediumship, or is this something else? Well, non-human beings have to be spirit beings, because what else is there? So if we're seeing spirit more than we see people here, well, that means you're open to the spirit world. It's not normal. I would argue that most mediums will, if you like, see some spirit as if they're in the room, like real living people, once or twice in their lifetime. That's the general rule of thumb we teach. Seeing them within our minds is different. Seeing them within our mind, but again, I don't ever see spirit unless I open up to it. I don't ever become aware of spirit until I have the discipline of saying, right, it's time to work now. I'm working now. I'm either doing a sitting, I'm either doing platform, I'm either teaching, but there's a reason for me to open up to the spirit world. Any other time? No. Any other time when I'm off duty, any other time I'm normal. My mind is on the normal plane. So if you're always seeing it, You're chasing it, you're opening to it, or you're moving to that state where you can get it. And when we first start, it's ever so exciting to see things and to get that. And a lot of people can do that when they first start and always want to be on, what we call the leaky tap medium. They're always dripping, they're always trying to be on, but it's not really helpful for you and other people. And we have to live this earthly life, so you don't want to be connected to the spirit world all the time. You need to be living your life, living your earthly life, enjoying your earthly life. So I would say learn the discipline of shutting it down. In fact, I will be doing a video on discipline. I've touched upon it in several of my other videos so far, but I think it's definitely a video that needs to be done. So interesting question. Definitely interesting question. But yes, it can only be mediumship. The only other option is mental illness, and the only other option beyond that is hallucinations. But I'm not really going to get into those. But those are other options where we can hallucinate things into being. That's quite common when when you've got flu or really ill and running a fever. You can get some pretty profound, amazing hallucinations. You could probably get the same from certain substances. Not that I would ever try that. That's not something I would go there. Some people actually try to provoke mediumistic experience through that, and I do not recommend it. It can really mess with your mind. So don't go there. But I mention that you can just because some do, but I would not do it. Okay, next question. Anastasia, are there such things as earthbound spirits? This is the question I get asked the most. I think it must be pretty much the majority of my live Q&As. And the thing is, I just got back from holiday yesterday, and on holiday I recorded a whole bunch of video shorts. And so there's a whole one on lost souls and earthbound spirits, and it will be the one released in a week's time. So for that question, the simple answer is, I don't believe it in earthbound spirits, is my simple answer. But I won't go into the full detail why, because you've got a 10-12 minute video coming up for why. So my teaser is, I don't believe it. Spirit can draw close to the earth, absolutely, and they can move away from the earth. Your loved ones can draw close to you, and it's choice and free will. If spirit want to be close to their loved ones, they can. If spirit want to go and revisit their workplace or their old home, they can. If spirit want to be around people they love and care about, they can. It doesn't mean they're earthbound. And there's not like a spirit world, the earth plane, and there's some impenetrable barrier in between. There's not a no man's land that's impossible to cross. No. Once we pass, we're in the spirit world. And when we're in the spirit world, we're in spirit. And there's no such thing as being earthbound. You're just in the spirit world. You can move in the spirit world, if you like, to draw close to the earth if you wish, or move away. It's up to you. Just like we don't always spend every minute of our time here around somebody's house. We maybe our family or friend, we may go and see them occasionally, or we don't spend every minute at work. We have to go there because we get paid for going there or whatever, but you don't have to be there every second. So there's no such thing as an earthbound spirit. But if you want the whole story, in 1 week's time, you will get there. Yeah, and many people often think their mediumship is getting worse, but it's not. You're getting used to it. Mediumship constantly changes. So check out 7 reasons why your mediumship seems to be getting worse. Laurie, it's nice to be with you live. Wonderful. Glad you're enjoying it. Hello, Omar. Okay. Alessandra, I love how straightforward you are. I always agree with you. That's wonderful to know. But you are allowed to disagree with me, remember. I just present my view. As I say, my views, my strapline is practical, down-to-earth teachings on mediumship without the fluff, without the nonsense, without the airy-fairy. And I like to keep it simple, straightforward, logical, down-to-earth. That's the approach I want to bring. Okay. Tony, good to see you. Do loved ones from earlier generations ever come through if the message they bring is felt relevant or important, even if the sitter has only vague or no memory of them? They can do. There's nothing restricting them or stopping them. Now, I remember a little while back, I remember working on platform, and I got somebody's great-great-grandfather or great-great-great-grandfather. I can't remember which one it was. And I was like, there's no way you're going to know this person. And the person said, actually, I'm studying the family tree. Keep going. I want to hear all this. And I gave all this information, and they took quite a lot of it as accurate from their research on him. And I brought through some pieces of information. They came to me afterwards and said there was like certain questions they had that they weren't sure. And what I'd brought forward had filled in the gaps for them, which was wonderful, isn't it? Isn't that clever? The intelligence of spirit. You're doing your family tree, the person you're thinking of and the questions you have, they become aware of it and they can come forward. Remember that people don't reincarnate and no longer cease to be in the spirit world, or they don't get elevated to levels where they can't draw close to a medium's mind. No, they can come anytime they wish. But there's no real point people coming unless you know of them, because certainly in the public domain, you wouldn't take them. So, but again, I have brought through great grandparents and great grandparents where the people do know them. You know, if someone has a child at age 16, another one at 16, another one at 16 or 18, you know, the great grandfather or grandmother would be well known to them, would still be there in their life, and they would easily know that. So yes, it can happen. It does happen. It's not always that common, because if you ask somebody, who do you most want to hear from? Chances are they're not going to say me great grandfather. You know, I would love my own great grandfather to come through. He has a very interesting passing, shall we say. And so I'd love to know, and he passed quite young, I'd like to know a bit about him if he would ever like to come through. So that's a thought and intent I'm setting out there. So I hope that helps you, Tony. Carolina, do you have to have a lot of experience in mediumship to do trance mediumship? Simple answer is no, but the general answer is yes. So for most people, you unfold mental evidential mediumship first, and then you unfold trance mediumship. Some people go from doing healing mediumship to trance mediumship. Trance mediumship is a very passive energy. Evidential mediumship is a very active energy. Healing's quite very passive as well. Inspirational speaking, writing is passive. But to be honest, you can develop trance at any time. All forms of mediumship generally can be developed in isolation of each other. I know that when I was first started doing healing, someone told me, oh, you can't do evidential mediumship and do healing at the same time. You can't. You've got to choose one or the other. And that was actually the person who was assessing me for my healing exam who told me that. And I was working medium, so I'm like, I'm not giving up either. The first circle I ever went to as a closed circle was a trance circle. And I was just invited along to give energy. But actually, a few circles in, I actually spoke in trance, and I wasn't expecting it. And it was like what I call a spiritual sweetie. They give you something to show the potential's there, but then they take it all away, and it's like, right, that potential's there. If you want to work for it, you better start sitting. There's no shortcuts in mediumship. To develop trance, it takes years. It really does. I've been talking in trance for probably 11, 12 years, maybe 12 years, say. And the first 2 years, I wouldn't say it was brilliant. So it took, probably 3 years of development to get it to a level where I'm comfortable, it's spirit, and it's reasonable. Whereas now they never cease to amaze me what comes forward. But again, the way you develop trance is different from the way you develop evidential mediumship, which is different from the way you develop healing, different from the way you develop inspiration. You've got to sit for trance, ideally with sitters. It's very, very hard to develop good trance online. You can take it so far, but it will limit you. You have to have people present physically for the power and energy for spirit to use. So if you're interested in developing trance, I do have a video all about trance mediumship. One of my teaching videos is called Trance Mediumship. It's about 2.5 hours. Goes through how to develop trance in great detail. Costs £12. Available from my website. It's also part of the special module on healing, inspiration, and trance. There's 5 classes in there, including getting to know the one on guides and helpers. Because guides and helpers is critical. You've got to know your guides and helpers to do trance. Absolutely. So that one's critical. So there's the module has guides, and in fact, I'll be far easier rather than telling you. I can just pull it up, can't I? That'd be easier. So the special module of the study program, you can see there, it's guides and helpers, working with spirit inspiration, working with trance mediumship, and the spiritual healing and trance healing there as well. Now, we need to do inspirational work, inspirational speaking to move deeper to the trance state. It's just a natural progression from inspirational work if you're interested in it. So hopefully that might be of interest as well. The modules, I have 4 modules on the study program, each £110 for 10 classes, which are good value, and definitely worth checking out. Okay. So hopefully that gives you some clues, Caroline. I love trance mediumship. I can never, if someone said to me, you've got to give up something, healing, trance, speaking, inspirational speaking, or mediumship, I could never give up any of them. I love all of it. And if you have an interest, go for it. But generally to develop trance, you have to develop a close blend and bond with your guides, your spirit team. So that takes time. you can't develop it in a year. It's going to take years. It really is. And you've got to be in it for the long haul. As with all mediumship, there is no instant mediumship. Just add hot water. And there's another video short on that one coming up as well. Okay, let me move on. Patsy, nice to see you. Your question. When I'm put on the spot and told to deliver a reading to someone by my mentor or circle, I can do it and get some good messages. But if I set out to do a reading for someone else, I go blank. Now, there's a reason for this. The reason is when you're in a circle with a teacher, the teacher's giving you power and the teacher's giving you energy. And generally in a circle, the other sitters in a circle are giving you power as well. When you're working by yourself, doing a sitting or a reading, there's nobody else to give you power apart from your sitter, who generally will not be giving you much in the way of any power. So a lot of people work very well in class, especially in person in classes with a teacher present, because the teacher is using their power to help your mediumship. So that's the key thing to remember, and it's very helpful for you. But when you're doing it by yourself, doing a practice reading or just working by yourself, you don't have that, and it makes it a lot harder. So power is the key. Building your own power is the key as well. The more power you've built, the easier it will be. But if you're reliant on power from other sources, that will explain it. And also there's more pressure as well when you're doing it outside of the class environment. When you're doing it with somebody else, there's a lot more pressure. And that pressure can help push you away from the spirit world as well. A lot of it as well is prep. How do you prepare yourself to do it and the like? And how do you connect? The key is the connection. Connection is always the key. How to connect. I do have a video on how to connect as well, if anyone's interested in that. Mediumship Class 3 is Connection to the Spirit, also included in the Fundamentals of Mediumship course. Let me just quickly mention courses as well. What happens with me with courses is I plan a course in detail, I deliver a course, and then I move on to the next one. I don't repeat the courses all the time. I just do them once, and then the classes are pre-recorded. So we have a number there. We have... in order of how I did them was, first one was Great Mediums of the Past, where I look at a whole bunch of great mediums. Next one was the Confident Medium, because so many mediums want confidence in their mediumship. Then we had Spiritual Self-Development, which I think is vital. We have to develop ourselves spiritually. The more you develop yourself spiritually, the better a medium you'll become. And then we went to Meditation and Sitting for Spirit, which is a fundamental, a core. If you're not sitting for spirit, if you're not making that effort to forge that relationship with your spirit team, you'll struggle. I do have that series I mentioned at the beginning, Sit in the Power series that I put on YouTube. The first one, why you should sit for spirit, check it out. I won't go into it now, but you should check it out. The 7 reasons why. And that one, it comes with four meditations, highly recommended. Next one is the Fundamentals of Mediumship. That, if you like, is 4 classes covering the basics, the foundations, the mechanics. And the last course I ran is Getting Better Evidence, where we drill into much greater detail as how to really deepen your evidence, how to really get into the energy of spirit and bring forward good stuff. And the next course I'm doing is starting on the Sunday the 18th of July this month. It's Better Private Readings. I'll be drilling deep into private readings in great detail. We'll be looking at them from if you're just beginning medium and you're doing practice sittings, all the way through to if you're a working medium, doing how to do professional private readings and all the issues that go with it, how to manage people coming through your door, how to manage all the issues that will arise within sittings. I'll cover the whole thing. Everything I know about private sittings, I will cram into that course. So if that sounds of interest to you, do check it out. Only £60 for 4 classes. So there you go, advert over. Okay, next question. So Omar, recently I've been trying to incorporate elements of sitting in the power in my daily life tasks. For example, being aware of spirit while doing the dishes, etc. Will that help? I wouldn't try and do that. No, you know, when you're sitting in the power, you need to be doing sitting in the power. It's not something you can't do sitting in the power driving. Never try and do that driving or operating dangerous machinery. Otherwise, you'll have less fingers and all the rest of it. So not a good idea. So sitting in the power, you do it in a chair with a straight back with your eyes shut. And if you're doing sit in the power, do sit in the power. Don't try and incorporate it into something else. You can't do sit in the power whilst laying in the bath. You can't do sit in the power whilst doing the dishes. It's not going to work. Yes, you can move into an altered state. And yes, you could try and make a connection to the spirit world. But I don't recommend ever trying to connect to the spirit world unless you've got a sitter in front of you. There's no point doing mediumship unless you've got somebody who you can bring forward the information to, who will give you feedback, who will check what you're giving. Because at the end of the day, then the chances are your own imagination can come in and really It's not good. So we've got to get the discipline of working at the right times, always doing it at the right times. And the right times is when you're in circle, class, is when you're doing sit-ins, is when you're doing platform work. That's the right times. At other times, we shouldn't really be trying to link and get an evidential link with the spirit world. If we're sitting to blend with spirit, do it in sitting in the power. If we're sitting to get to know our guides, again, that's an extension of sitting in the power where we invite them in. If we're doing a meditation to serve a purpose, again, just do the meditation, but don't try and incorporate it with other tasks, would be my advice, because you'll not get as much benefit as if you just purely focus upon it. So that's the key. Focus is the key. Andrea, I love these sessions and your teaching videos. Thank you so much. You're very welcome. Alessandra, people think spirits are up in the sky. I think they're down here with us, but in different planes. I was told spirits aren't floating up in the sky. They're down here. Now, the spirit world is a world of a higher vibrational frequency, if you like. We can't see it because it's beyond our perception. We live in a dense earthly world, and the spirit world's a more fine, higher vibrational frequency world, and it's not visible to us, but it does interpenetrate this world. And it's a world of mind. It's a world of consciousness. We live in a world which we think is material, but is also a world of mind. But the spirit world is a world of consciousness, and that world of consciousness is ever present everywhere. So spirit's not up there, spirit's not down there, spirit's not over there. Spirit is wherever our mind is. So how do we find the spirit world? We move our mind. And wherever we move our mind, that's where the spirit world, we will blend with them. When we reach that frequency, when we reach that energy, that state, it's like the Magic Eye books, those 3D metaphor, 3D books. I love the Magic Eye metaphor. You look at it, you can't see a thing. You have to change your focus, change your awareness, change your vision, and slowly images begin to appear. It was always there. The spirit world was always there. You just had to move your focus and change your awareness to become aware of it. So the spirit world's everywhere. It's not above, down below. And in my teachings, you may sometimes see me pointing the spirit world up. And I only do that as a metaphor, really, as a symbology to show it's on a higher frequency. It's not. It's all around us. But if I'm telling you to raise your vibration, we tend to go up with raising, don't we? If I was pointing downwards, you get confused. So that's why I do it. But generally, the spirit world's all around us. It's a shift in our awareness that creates it. Dominic, if deceased loved ones can come to us in our dreams, does that mean that those who are still with us, but we are no longer only seldomly in touch with, can visit us in our dreams too on a soul level? So the problem we have is dreams are a process within the mind where the mind, it's creation. It's a creation of our mind. It's a mechanism through which we process life. And the vast majority, 99.9% of dreams are not real. Clearly, they're dreams. They're creation of our mind. Every now and again, you'll have a dream where it really feels like you're spending time with spirit. Your loved one's there and it's profound. It has a really different energy and it affects you. And you wake up and you remember it and you feel touched by it. In those scenarios, I believe we are truly with our loved ones. Because they have that different energy, we remember it differently. Yes, in that scenario, I believe we're with our loved ones. But people still living, meeting them in the dreams, that can easily be a fabrication and creation of your own mind. So I don't think we ever can say that we are truly meeting them. So I think we can say from experience and knowledge that yes, you can occasionally meet spirit in your dreams, but there will always be positive. Remember, spirit cannot harm, hurt, or cause pain to us. So if your loved one in the dream in the spirit world is harming you, that's your own mind. When it's from spirit, it has a different energy and it's always a positive experience. But no, I don't feel that people still living can interact with us in our dreams. Personally, that's my view. Your mileage may vary, your opinion may differ. So hopefully that answers that question. Anna, what's spirit made of? Spirit is mind. They are not made of anything. This physical world is a world of matter. But having said that, I've got a background in physics. Once you start probing that matter in great detail, you find out there's nothing in it. You find that atoms are mainly nothing. And you find that what we perceive to be solid is actually electrons and energy just moving in motion. And, you know, matter is actually light. So we could argue the spirit world is a world of light as well. It's a world of energy. But it's not matter. It's not anything physical it's made of. It's a world of consciousness, a world of mind. Like what I said earlier before, it's not, you know, it's not physical. We perceive things because we have this physical body. But the spirit world's not like that. So, yeah. So it's that question comes from our earthly viewpoint. In the spirit world, we will perceive that all things that in existence are of the spirit, of the divine creator, the divine intelligence, God, source, call it what you will. Everything is created by that divine mind. And something came up recently that the formation of the first stars was 350 million years ago, and the Big Bang was 2,000 million years ago. And, you know, think about it. We're here now because of all these things were created. And if it was created by a divine intelligence, things have been in motion for a long time to create it. Amazing, really. It really is amazing. So, yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. But the spirit world isn't made of anything is a simple answer. Energy. Mind, consciousness, light, call it what you will. So Alexandra, is automatic writing part of trance? Well, a lot of people talk about automatic writing and do not understand what automatic writing is, and what they really mean is inspirational writing. Within inspirational writing is where we move into a passive state and we allow spirit guides to blend with us and influence us. And we can get thoughts in our mind that we write, that's inspirational writing, but it can get to the point where the thoughts actually flow through the pen onto the paper without coming through our mind. And that's what we call automatic writing, where our mind isn't even aware of the words we're writing. That is what you would call automatic writing. But it's still a form of inspirational work. It's not a form of trance unless you're in a deep trance state doing it, a medium trance state doing it, with your eyes shut. And like, you know, say I'm in trance, you put a pen in my hand, and if I started writing, that's automatic writing. But I can equally do that with my eyes open in an inspirational state. So it doesn't have to be. So I wouldn't say it. Most times automatic writing does not take place in trance. If you want to know more about the different levels of inspiration, overshadowing, light trance, medium trance, deep trance, again, I cover that in great detail in the trance video and also in the special module on trance healing inspiration. Worth checking out if you have an interest in it. But a lot of people think that just inspirational writing is automatic writing, but it's not. Automatic is where our mind is out the equation, and we don't even know what we write until we look at it. And there is a form of automatic writing that is actually physical mediumship, and that is where literally spirit move your arm. So you're in a very deep trance state, and spirit will actually move your arm while you're in a deep trance state, and they're physically maneuvering and manipulating that arm with. That's why it calls physical mediumship. Very rare to see that. An interesting experiment Gordon Higginson once did was he demonstrated mediumship, but he also had a pen and paper. And whilst demonstrating mediumship and giving links, also through inspirational writing, automatic writing, another message was written out at the same time as messages were given. So in other words, the guides were blending through and using automatic writing to deliver another message, which I think is fascinating. I think that is amazing. I love that. So yeah, so hopefully that answers your question on automatic writing. But a lot of people talk about inspirational writing as automatic writing, whereas that's not really the case. With inspirational writing, it starts off as ideas you start writing about, then it starts off as linked thoughts. Thoughts unfold one from the other. Then it starts off that words begin to unfold one after the other. And still, even then, that's not automatic writing. Automatic writing is where there's no thoughts coming through your mind at all, but the pen is moving and it writes logical. That's automatic writing. Sorry to be so pedantic, but a lot of people don't get that. And I love working with all these different states. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So if you're enjoying it so far, don't forget to hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, do remember, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you get notified of future videos. If you would like to make a donation, you can do that through Super Chat. That is the little dollar symbol at the bottom of your screen if you're signed in to YouTube. Sign into YouTube or Google, it should appear for you. You can also donate through PayPal. There is a link, a pinned link at the very top of the chat box you can click on. And there's also a link in the video description as well. So if you'd like to make a donation, you're more than welcome. All donations are gratefully received. As I say, I offer this class to give you my knowledge. I don't expect payment, but if anyone would like to make a payment, that's always wonderful to get. Okay, next question. Jody, you finally made it to a live feed. Well done, excellent. Dawn, we all have guides and helpers while on Earth and they change as we develop. But when we cross, do we still have guidance from some of this in the world within worlds? It fascinates me. Love your talks. Thanks. So yeah, we've all got guides and helpers when we're here. Everybody has guides and helpers. How many guides and helpers you have depends upon what you're doing. And you'll probably not even be aware of all the guides and helpers that work with you. If you're interested in guides and helpers, I have a video on that. Teaching video on guides and helpers. It's also part of the special module on inspiration, healing and trance, remember. And I will at some stage in the future do a course all about guides and helpers, and we will bring in a lot of techniques to try and help you work with it. That's down the line, one after the next one. So your guides do change as you develop. Think about it, you know, when you're going through school, the teachers you have in school, you wouldn't be taught your entire career by your kindergarten teacher. As you progress, you get your primary teacher, your secondary teacher, your college or university teachers. It's the same with the work we do. Different guides and helpers will come through at different times to help us with the work. The work we're doing, and the guides can change out. The main guide can change. There's lots of documented cases of that as well. So yes, guides do change. And when you get the spirit world, people can guide you from the spirit world. They won't be called guides and helpers because you'll be able to see them, and you'll link with them. When we're blending with guides and helpers, we have to do it through mediumship and inspiration. It comes through our subconscious mind. But when we're in the spirit world, we're spirit too, and we can receive guidance, teaching, inspiration from other souls who wish to work with us. Absolutely. And will you still have a connection with your own guides and helpers? I don't see why not. If they're going to spend this lifetime working with you and they have that connection with you, why are they going to suddenly say, all right, you're in spirit now, I'm off to go and work with somebody else? No, they'll be like a good friend. So they will want to help you still from the spirit world. Absolutely. And can we be a guide to somebody else? Probably. So yes, so there you are, guides and helpers. Exciting subject. I'm glad you love my talks. Okay. Grateful for these sessions, Dominique. Lovely. Alessandra, you want to check out the modules? That is great. Automatic writing is amazing. So definitely, if you've never done it, do experiment with inspirational writing. I think it's quite interesting. ES, follow up to earlier question on contracts. Do you believe that some mediums interpret information they receive from their guides not in a correct way? Well, all information received from the spirit world has to be interpreted to a certain degree. Because the way we receive it, it's not objective, it's subjective. It all comes through our mind. Even when I'm doing trance, there's a potential that my mind can interfere. Even though spirit speaks through my mouth, control, if you like, they blend with us, they place our mind under a degree of control, with our permission, of course, with our cooperation. They can't do it against our will. And then they speak through me. And it's something called the stained glass effect, which Frederick Meyer spoke about. He was one of the earlier founders of the Society for Psychical Research, and he coined this phrase, the stained glass effect. And that is that the mind of the medium can always influence the communication that comes through him, whether that's evidential mediumship, whether that's trance, whether that's inspirational work. The mind of the medium can always, to some degree, influence it. So if you're receiving thoughts, there could be a degree of interpretation required. But if the words are flowing out of your mouth or you're writing them down and you're getting them as words, then there's less, if you like, interpretation. But sometimes the spirit world working with me in trance, they get the wrong word. I know, I just know it's the wrong word. if I'm listening to a recording of the trance, it's like, that's the wrong word. And I know at the time, I feel it. When they're saying it, that they've missed the wrong word. If you like, they're looking through my vocabulary to find the word. And if it's not there, and they've often said that they are limited by the vocabulary we use here upon the earth. There's not the right words they want to use. In the spirit world, they don't work with words, they work with thoughts. So the nuances of the thoughts get restricted through words. So the nuances of the thoughts, if they're not coming through words, but coming through a thought that we have to somehow interpret, yes, we can interpret wrong. I have to say as well, and I have to bring it up, but with some people, they are a little bit delusional with guides as well. I have to say it's true. I met people who believed their guides were, well, all sorts of things, performing seal, all sorts of things. And no. Or the guide is someone famous. You've got Jesus as a guide, and they haven't. They've got a spiritual energy that comes through. That's an evolved soul with a spiritual energy, with wisdom, but their own mind puts a label on it and calls it Jesus. So there's a degree of interpretation that goes wrong there as well. And some people have guide worship, and some people believe they're connected to the guides receiving information when actually they're not, and it's their own imagination. It can even be hallucination. I've known mental illness as well present itself with people believing they're connecting with people in the spirit world, presenting all sorts of information, and they're not. And sadly, it's just a form of psychosis. It's ever so sad to see, but it happens. It happens. I have to say it happens. So yes, that's guides. Let me move on. Jody, I love your videos and appreciate taking the time to share them. Lovely. Lady Oak. I received a message for a client from her mum. She took everything I described I saw in a hospital bed, talked to me. After the client told me their mother hadn't passed away, she's in a coma. That is okay. When people there are times at which we can communicate with people who are not passed. And the general times are when there's a significant brain injury, when somebody has got advanced dementia or Alzheimer's, when somebody is close to the point of passing, where, they're going to pass in the next day or two. That can happen as well. I brought through somebody who was concerned about her cats, and the lady said she's not passed yet. I've been to visit her this afternoon. She's not passed yet. Yet she had, if you like, they have a foot in both worlds. And coma is another example where it's possible to communicate. Again, while someone's in a coma, if you like, they're given ability to be in two worlds, or they have the ability to communicate through mediums. So I do have a video called Can a Medium Link with the Living, where I go through all these different scenarios. Well worth checking out if you haven't seen it. And as always, after each of these sessions, what I do is, it takes me a little while, man, to do it because I have to compile the list. So it'll be sometime tomorrow, but I will put in the description and the pinned comment all the videos I reference as best I can remember. I go down my list and try and remember, did I mention it? So as best I can remember, I will put the videos in. So if you've not seen them, you can go check them out. So hopefully that will help. But coma, absolutely. I've brought through people in comas. It happens. It does. Don't be worried. Deborah, what do you do to prepare for a one-on-one mediumship reading? And, again, people will do different things. And I'm going to go into this in a great deal of detail in the Better Private Readings course. And different mediums will prepare in different ways. If you're doing multiple readings back to back, you don't have a great deal of time to prepare at all. You can prepare for the session of readings in a row. But generally, the way I prepare is I take the time to attune to the spirit world, to let them know what's happening, to ask for their help, to send the invite to those who belong to the sitters coming to work with me. But then when I do mediumship in the sitting, it's the same as I do mediumship on platform. We make that link, we connect, we hold the blend, we work with it. But also the preparation as well, when the person comes through the door or you sit to work with them if it's online, you tune into their energy as well to see what the need of the sitter is. So I'm going to go through all of this in great detail in Better Private Readings. That's a bit of a taster for you. But if you're interested, remember, I'm doing the course starting on the 18th of July, 4 classes, Better Private Readings, £60, very good value, where everything I know about private readings, I will tell you. And if I don't tell you, you can ask me. Lots to go through. I'm looking forward to that one. So you said, is it mediumship as well? If you get it in a coma? Yes, it is mediumship. It's a mind-to-mind communication from a soul. So yes, it's mediumship. Then, Yes, they're still alive, but their soul is able to somehow detach and communicate. So foot in both worlds. Think about that. Foot in both worlds, and that will help you. So they're alive in this world, but they can function from the spirit world as well. But as soon as they come back to their full awareness, this spirit side will just disappear. Absolutely. Tony, I've noticed people saying their guides are Native American Indians. Is there any reason for this? Is it more about what is meaningful to the individual? Brilliant question. And how do I do this in a tactful way? Honestly. So let me say, White Eagle, the guide of Grace Cook, was not a Native American. Silver Birch, the guide of Morris Barbanel, was not a Native American. Red Cloud, the guide of Estelle Roberts, was not a Native American. They were portrayed as Native Americans, but they said they weren't. They weren't. And then I got an article, somebody lent me a whole stack of old Two Worlds newspapers, bound volumes from about 1938, 39. They let me borrow them for a while and for my research, and I worked through them. And I came across some fabulous articles asked in 1938 or 1939, why do all mediums have Native Americans as their guides? And so this is, that same question was asked 80 years ago. Nothing has changed. And the simple fact is, spirit will present themselves how you want them to present. I don't believe guides are Native Americans, Egyptians, Indians, Buddhists. Don't believe any of that. They are evolved souls. They can take on any guise you want them to have. And a lot of it is the mind of the medium that creates it. You hear that all these mediums have Native American guides, so you want one. Or oh no, I fancy an ancient Egyptian. Who has a bin man as a guide? Who has a little old granny from down the road as a guide? All of them are capable of being guides. People don't want those. We want a fancy guide. We want a wonderful guide. We want a guide who's important. The ascended masters and archangels aren't off doing a lot of work at the moment as guides. And is it real? No, of course not. Now, if that upsets anyone who has ascended masters as their guides, I'm sorry. But it's not the case. It's not the case. In my belief, it's not the case. And Spirit have said this multiple times through numerous trance mediums, that they will wear whatever garb we choose. There's a well-known example of a religious man who became a medium whose guide was a priest. And the priest in a deep trance state said, I'm not a priest at all. He just makes me this with his mind. It's his mind that forces me into this persona, into this perception of being a priest, but I'm not. I'm just a mind. I'm a consciousness. May have had many lifetimes, could take on a variety of guises and roles. But of course, if we're going to present our guides in this world, we like to have a label. We like to give them an archetype, if you will, so people can associate with them. I don't know what my guides are. I'm sorry. I'm not a very trendy or fashionable medium, because I don't even know who my guides are. I know some of them, very few of them I know by name, and they've told me multiple times, names are not important. Who or what we are is not important. What matters most is what we bring through. What matters most is the teachings we speak. What matters most is if that resonates with you, that's what's important. The rest of it is fluff. The rest of it, whether my guide is better than yours. We play guide top trumps. In the UK, we used to have a game called top trumps as children. You get cars and it was displacement and top speed and weight, and you had to try and win the round with the better card than the other people. And people play guide top trumps. Well, I've got Estelle Roberts' guide, Red Cloud. Well, I can beat you. I've got Buddha. No, I can beat you. I've got Jesus. And on it goes. It's guide top trumps. So no. Don't get caught up on what your guides are. Just get to know their energy and get to allow their wisdom, their inspiration, their love, their knowledge, their power to work through you. That's what matters most. I'll get off my high horse. and don't. If you find that helpful, great. If you didn't find it helpful, don't leave me a dislike. But that's what I truly believe. Good question, Tony. Veronica, I really don't know how to start a mediumship journey. Could meditation be a first step? I know that my grandma and her grandma had great intuition, maybe as well. Thank you from Bolivia. So basically, to start your journey of mediumship, you have to start learning about the theory of mediumship, how it works. I offer detailed study program. I also offer my courses that I mentioned, the fundamentals of mediumship. That's valuable to use as well. I have my teaching videos, which were done a bit earlier on, which form the foundation of my study program. Again, that will all give you a very solid foundation in what mediumship's about. You get a good idea, a good understanding from coming to Q&As like this. But ultimately, you've then got to start learning, got to start going to circles or classes online or wherever. If there's nothing local, you'll have to go online to get it. And just start working, commit, turn up regularly, show up. You have to show up to make mediumship develop. It doesn't develop in an instant. You can't take a magic potion. No one can touch you on the shoulder and make you a medium. You've got to unfold it from within. But meditation is a key part of it. But in the early stages, we learn to do meditations that help with our psychic awareness. Unfolding the psychic first is very valuable, because if you don't do that, you end up doing it through your mediumship, and it slows mediumship down because you're doing psychic unfoldment along with mediumship unfoldment. In the UK, we teach people to do the psychic unfoldment first, mediumship second. But again, you've got to work with what you have available locally for you. But if you have an interest in it and a desire to do it, that will take you a long way. If you don't have an interest in it, you won't. If you're not interested in something, or you just want to dabble with it, you're not going to get very far. So you've got to commit. Commitment is key. So I hope that helps. Vrinda, you said, can I ask a future related question? You can ask any question you like. Whether I can answer it or not, I don't know. Amar, thank you for doing this service. It's interesting to hear information on mediumship from a more matter-of-fact perspective. I appreciate your thorough responses. I call it down to earth. I call it practical. I try and keep the fluff out. I try and keep things that don't really add to it out. Let's try and strip mediumship down to what truly matters. But remember, mediumship is first and foremost a sacred spiritual process. The more you develop spiritually, the easier it becomes. The more you develop spiritually, the more power you bring to your mediumship. And developing spiritually means being in touch with the soul aspect of self, and it means moving away from the ego self, the self that needs fame, fortune, recognition, all of those aspects. We've got to be in tune with a part of us that can rise above it. Spiritual self-development course, 4 sessions, go through that in a great deal of detail. So profound. My study program, the very first class of the study program is spiritual development, because it's key. It really is. When I taught the whole thing, I always start with spiritual development as the very first thing I speak. Even though I come across talking about a lot of mechanics, the one thing I want to explain to all of you is that spiritual development and spirituality is at its core. Don't forget that, because I often forget to mention it enough during these classes, but it's true. Alessandra, never saw my guide's face. I just hear their voice and they talk to me by showing images, but never a face or a name. I've not seen my guide's face in my mind. Don't need to. I feel their energy and I feel their inspiration. I don't ever hear a voice. If I hear a voice, I'll be worried that my own mind's creating it. But again, remember, it's how you work. What's your dominant psychic modalities, psychic senses? That will determine what you get. But remember that most people seem to have this bizarre idea that their guides will materialize in front of them. No, won't happen. Very, very, very rare. Most people have this idea that we talk to our guides in our head. No, it's not like that. I send my guides a thought and I get the answer later. I may be having a shower, or I may be daydreaming and I get a bit of inspiration comes in. It could be multiple hours later. It could be days later. It could be weeks later. So inspiration from our guides will come at different times. Don't expect an instant answer. If you expect an instant answer, our own imagination can force it. Mavis Patilla, in her book Mavis with Spirit, she wrote a lot of letters to her guides, and through inspirational writing received the letters back, and they had this beautiful correspondence backwards and forwards. And again, that's a powerful tool for communicating with guides as well. But don't be in a rush to get an instant response with guides. That's key. Dawn, what drew you to trance? Did you always want to do it, or spirit push you in that direction? Basically with me, I didn't always want to do it. No, I didn't always want to do anything really. I came to mediumship. There's a video I put up recently, about a month ago, on my story, what brought me, an address I did on my story, what brought me to doing mediumship. And the first thing I really wanted to do the most was healing. And I also I wanted to give back what I'd got, a message from spirit, my own loved ones in spirit, to prove they were around me. The comfort that brought me really profoundly influenced me to if I could do that for somebody else, I would like to. So I started developing and unfolding my mediumship, but never expecting to be a platform medium, never expecting to do that, just to start the journey and see where it took me. But it proved that I did have an ability, a forte for doing that. But then, as I say, maybe after a year of development, I went to a trance circle. And I was quite interested in reading books by the Silver Birch books through the mediumship of Maurice Barbanel. Fascinating books. Highly recommend them. The most beautiful teachings. And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could bring forward some kind of inspirational words like that, some kind of trance teachings like that. But never really thought that I would ever do it. Always interested in developing and seeing how far things would go. So, and then I started developing in 2001, and I decided to commit to sitting for trance in 2009. So you can see there's 8 years there. I began working as a medium in 2003, doing platform mediumship, evidential mediumship. So after 2 years, I was working as a medium, but it took another 6 years after that to 8 years before I decided I would like to do trance and commit to it. Because with all these things, you've got to make the commitment to spirit. You've got to say, right, I'm going to seriously sit every month or every fortnight for however long is needed, and let's see what happens. You can't just say, I like to develop trance, but I won't sit for it, because nothing will happen. And you've got to give it the time. So hopefully, again, you've got to it's got to come from within. I was interested in trance. I dabbled with trance in that 6 years. I went to courses on trance, but I never committed to sit for it. We've got to make the commitment. Commitment is the key. Madeleine, thank you, Martin. Love from the Netherlands. I know it's difficult to get names from a different country because they are so different. And it is, yeah. As mediums, we've struggled to get names from that we're not familiar with. Spirit work with what we're familiar with names. If you're not familiar with a name, it can be challenging. Unless you are clairaudient, in which case you can hear it, or unless you're strongly clairvoyant and they can spell the letters out for you and you can repeat it. I have given names from other languages when I've worked before, but often they're not quite right. It's kind of a variation. I may give like a Michael or a Miguel, or it might be Miguel, but it's kind of, it's got this similar energy, but it's not quite there. And it's not a name I'm instantly familiar with. So yeah, I get that. Keith, I have all the certification course and special module classes and tutorials as well, sit in the Power City. Apart from 3 extra meditations in meditation special class, would there be more info in there? Well, great that you brought all of that, Keith. So with my courses, what I always aim to do is to bring more into them. So what happened was, let me tell you the history of how my work teachings developed, and then you'll understand a little bit. So I first started by, way back in about 2009, I created a course of 12 classes for my local spiritualist church where I was teaching for people there. And that became mediumship classes 1 to 12, like you see on the screen there. And then later on, I added to them and I created 24 classes. And that's the 24 videos I have there. They are video recordings of me delivering a class in a church, like a lecture style class in a church, teaching people. And they form the foundations of the study program. I then went on to develop the study program from that. And for each, let me bring up the study program and show you. For the study program, for each module is 5 of those classes, plus 5 tutorials. With the study program, I got people to send me all the questions they had, all the bits they weren't sure on, and I collated all of that into a tutorial, where in the tutorial we drill even further into it. So whatever was raised, we go into it in even more detail. And so if you want to get the most of my teachings, most of it is in the study program. That is the real in-depth stuff. And then with the courses, all my courses were to add a different angle. So there's nothing in the study program on great mediums of the past. I spoke about the 5 great mediums who most inspire me, which is Gordon Higginson, which is Estelle Roberts, Helen Hughes, Harry Edwards the Healer, and Maurice Barbanel, the trance medium. They most inspire me. I'm passionate about them and their work. I spoke about them, but I pulled it all together. What can we learn from them? Many people were asking me about confidence, and I thought, it's something I never really taught. So I put together a course where we got into that in great detail. And I'm a hypnotherapist by background and training. And I work with a lot of clients on confidence there. And I pulled in a lot of those techniques, tools, ideas from hypnotherapy and NLP into the confident medium. Then the next course, I realized spiritual self-development was an area that really wasn't taught enough. Whilst I'd done a small amount of it in module 1 with a class and a tutorial, I really wanted to drill into it and really get into it. And so we did with spiritual self-development. So again, if you bought everything, you probably got a quarter of it. 75% you don't have. Then meditation and sitting for spirit. With that one, I really want to get into meditation in more detail. Whilst yes, again, 1 class and 1 tutorial wasn't enough, I really want to drill deep into it. And I created a second meditation, sitting in the power meditation. As part of that, I also created a meditation for blending with your guides and helpers, and a meditation on spiritual development and spiritual aspects and qualities. So I also spent 4 2-hour sessions, 8 hours on the theoretical side of meditation, sitting for spirit, versus my other classes, you'd be lucky to get 3, 4, if that. So again, you can see that if you had 25-30%, again, you get an extra 75%. Now, the fundamentals of mediumship, this actually parallels mediumship classes 2 to 1 to 5, with some of the meditation stuff left out because that was covered in mediumship. I was covered in meditation and sitting for spirit. So if you'd bought all my modules, I would advise you not to buy the fundamentals, because there's a lot of overlap there. There was some new material. Some people said to me, I got some new material, I enjoyed it, but there's always new material because it's later down the line. But I'd say you've probably got a good 90% of it if you already had the modules. Getting better evidence, again, I hadn't really drilled in deep into the mechanics of getting better evidence and the ideas of that. So again, if you've got all my stuff, you maybe have 30% of it, there'd be a whole raft added on top. So that's the idea. So with the meditation, which is your question specifically, and similarly with getting the better private readings, I've done 1 2-hour lecture on private readings and answered a few questions, but we're now going to do 4 2-hour lectures and questions. So it's 4 times as much content. So that's the idea, just keep going into it in more detail and adding to the core of the teaching materials I have. So to answer your question, would there be stuff in there you've not heard of? Absolutely. Would there be angles that will help you? I would like to hope so. I'd be surprised if you thought you'd heard it all. So, I'd argue you'd probably got 30% of it, and the other 70% of it should add a different angle or something new. So hopefully that helps. But it's a good question. Okay, next question. I laughed when you said we want a fancy guide, but we do. Now, Helen Hughes did have a little old lady from down the street as one of her guides. I can't remember her name now. Granny something was the name. I've forgotten from reading her book, but yeah. But I loved that. Having a little old lady from down the street. How wonderful is that? But yeah, a lot of people want a fancy guide. And from what I get, the energy I felt also told me it's about energy and intent rather than names and exterior forms. Absolutely. Kevin, love your views on guides, and I'm on the same page. Thanks for sharing your knowledge. You're welcome. As I sit to connect to spirit, my neck and shoulders pain a lot. Is this normal? Now, the video you want is my last Sitting in the Power video, number 4, about, I'd say it's not working, but technically it's just issues and challenges people encounter. And one of the most common question I get is, when I'm blending with spirit or when I'm sitting for spirit, I get this, I feel that, is it normal? And the simple answer is what you get is unique to you. The simple answer is it's how you are experiencing the energy of spirit. Now, one thing I will do is say is when we sit to meditate, We become aware of pains and things within our body. We can do that. When we're on the go all the time, we don't notice it as much. But when you put you in a static position, for example, at the moment, I've actually got quite bad back pain at the moment. And if I was to meditate now, it would hurt me much more than doing what I'm doing now. But if that's the point, when we're still and in a fixed position, sometimes ailments, tweaks, twinges within our body, we feel it. So one thing I'd say is to make sure it's not that. Just sit, but don't meditate. Just sit and be still and relax and scan the body, find out what's there. If it's not there, then that's okay. But if it is there, then you know it's nothing to do with the spirit world. Then when we're blending with spirit and the energy affects us, what we get changes over time, but what we get as well can affect us. And for example, you can feel anxiety, you can feel your heart pounding at different times, but that comes and goes. If it's from spirit and it's the energy of spirit, what you can ask is, can you change the energy? I'm feeling discomfort, it's not feeling right. If it's you, spirit, can you just change it? But if we're just blending with the spirit world, it's how that energy affects us. And we have to learn to push through it, or we have to learn to move our awareness, and it will shift gradually with time as well. So there's no hard and fast answers. But spirit would never seek to give us pain. Never. Your spirit guides are not saying, I know, let's give him some pain today. He deserves a bit of pain. No, of course not. Spirit will never give us pain, suffering, discomfort. Never. So if we're getting it, it's not spirit giving us it deliberately. Recognize that. What it is it's how the energy is affecting us. So if we can put the intent to spirit that this is not working well for me, and it may change, or we can shift our connection. We can move away and back and try and move past it, beyond it, move our level, if you like, a connection and blending to see if it changes and alters. And over time it may. And if we have fear about things, that can magnify things and make it worse. For example, when I used to sit at one point, it always felt like I was dropping. As blimey, don't enjoy that. You get that sometimes when you're going to sleep. It feels like you're plummeting like a stone. But it's something, I moved through it. After a little while, it stopped and I just moved through it. Sometimes you just got to accept it and go with it, and you move beyond it. So I hope that helps in some way. But do check out the video on 4 more reasons why sitting in the power may not be working, because I go into it in a bit of detail on that one as well. And that will maybe help. Anastasia, I have a whooshing sound in my right ear when spirit comes near me. There are no medical issues. Do you think that it's my guides? I'm still developing my relationship with them. The simple answer is, I don't know. Have I heard of that before? No. But I always say what you experience is unique to you, and nobody can deny you your experiences. It's no good me saying, no, that never happens, because in your experience, it's happening. I used to really irritate and wind me up when people would say to me, oh, no, that can't possibly happen. I'd say, this has happened to me. They go, no, that can't possibly happen. So nobody can deny you your experience. And it's hard to say it's abnormal. All we can say is it's not usual. It's not common. It's uncommon. It's rare. But the whooshing sound, I'm not familiar with it. I've not heard anyone mention that to me before. What it means, I don't really know. Again, it can be how the energy of spirit is affecting you. But does it mean it's a guide? Not necessarily. Does it mean it's just the energy of spirit? Or could it even be that when you're relaxed in a certain state and a certain altered state, that can happen as well? It can as well. That's the thing we have to bear in mind, that a lot of this can be when we're moved. As a hypnotherapist, I'd take people into a trance, not the mediumship trance, obviously, but in hypnotherapy, we take them into an altered state, a trance state, where we get them more impressionable, and we're working with suggestion, and we're working with different techniques to work in that altered state. But when people go into an altered state, there's a whole bunch of different things that can happen, including hallucinations, including time slowing down, time speeding up. There's all sorts of things that are nothing whatsoever to do with mediumship, but they happen in the trance state. And things like what you're describing can also happen in that state. People come back and they'll say, this happened to me. And it's like, don't worry. It's just as you're moving into the altered state, or as you're moving away from your normal state, that can happen. So that could be a part of it as well. So I hope that helps. Madeleine, a grandmother or father or your parents can be a good guide too. Now, people we know can be helpers from the spirit world, but people we know would not be your guide. You know, the main guide is not generally your mum, your dad, your grandmother, your grandfather, because they probably don't have the requisite skills to be the main guide. The main guide, I'd like to think, would be a little bit more evolved, or a little bit more, they work with us in a different way. It's a different type of relationship. But there's nothing to stop your loved one who's passed to spirit from being a helper of yours, from taking an interest in your spirit work and wanting to help you with your spirit work and support you in your spirit work, just as they may when they're here. For example, my mum is in spirit. It's what actually got me, if you want to look at the address on my story, it's what triggered everything within me, her passing. But I know that she's regularly come through, other mediums come close, been picked up, portrays herself a little bit as a helper from spirit as well. I'd like to think she is. So yes, absolutely. So light, wisdom, beauty, how to avoid bringing in spirits that are not from the highest love. Some might be high frequency, but not from the highest love. Now, when we're working with the spirit world, provided we have the right intent, as long as we work from the right place, the right intent, and we're doing it for the right reasons, we're doing it to help people, we're working from a point of love, a point of compassion, you will not have any problems with spirit. There are no dark spirits that can work through you in mediumship. It doesn't happen. Your guides and helpers, if you like, protect you. There's an unwritten rule that only those who want to come forward to help their loved ones here can work through a medium. I've not encountered any evil spirits, dark spirits. I've met a lot of people who say they have, and I've been along to places where people say there's an evil spirit and there's not. It's their fear that magnifies phenomena into things. So as long as we work from the right places, you're fine. Now, I'll give you one example where you can encounter fun and problems. If you decide to get some friends round and you get drunk and you want to have a Ouija board session, get a Ouija board out and see if we can contact the spirit world and have a bit of fun, have a bit of a laugh, do not be surprised if you get spirits who come forward who want to have a bit of fun with you and want to have a bit of a laugh with you, because that's the energy and intent you're bringing to it. The Ouija board is just a tool. It's neither good nor bad. I've worked with them. They're a bit slow to bring through messages, but they're very interesting. It's an interesting experience. They're not evil or bad or nothing like that. Not at all. It's just a tool. Like anything is a tool. But I know many people who things have happened with the Ouija, messages come through that are less than nice. But the energy you bring determines what you may get. And even though you may have guides and helpers who work with you, they may step back a little bit and say, let's let them have an experience now, because so they understand that it's what we bring to it creates the result. So yes, that's what I feel. So generally, don't worry about it. Work from a place of love. Work with the right intent, and you'll always be protected and you'll not have any problems. Dominique, can you not ask Spirit how he makes you physically aware of his presence? I'm not sure in relation to what you're asking that question. But Spirit come forward, and how we perceive Spirit depends upon how our own psychic senses, our own gifts work. That's the point to bear in mind. So, remember that, and they don't know how we perceive them. That's the other point to bear in mind. They project things at us, but whether we get it right, and they don't see how we perceive them neither. So they can't say, well, oh, hang on, he's not getting here, let me give it this way. Or yes, they'll work with us. The guides will help them to work in different ways, but it's not as simple or as clear cut as that at all. It's much more subtle. So Tony, do you have any videos on how mediumship and the teaching of mediumship has evolved over the ages? Same for spiritualism. I saw your address on spiritualism and found it really interesting. Simple answer, no, I don't. You get some clues if you have the great mediums of the past. Again, I talk about what it was with the teaching from the past that made great mediums. I also talk about the qualities of the great mediums that enabled great mediums to come forward. I also did a talk as well on mediumship, past, present, and future, where I kind of bring in some of those ideas as well. But a lot of people would not put up with the methods of the past now. This is the interesting thing. Gordon Higginson's mother, Fanny Higginson, she was a real old school strict teacher. The circle started at 7:30. Everyone had to be there by 7 o'clock, had to be in a state of attunement with the spirit world by 7:15. And if you weren't, when she came in the room, she'd come in with a cane, and she'd tap you on the shoulder and send you home if you weren't in the right state for the circle. And, you know, the discipline. You know, Gordon, bless his heart, he tells of a story where his mum left him on the corner of a street and was going to do an errand in a shop and said, when I come back, I want you in a good state of attunement with spirit, my lad. And if you're not, there'll be trouble. You know, she was a real hard taskmaster. And there's many, when you tell these stories, people say, oh yeah, I used to have a teacher like that, or I knew someone like that. And the teaching of the past, it was discipline, it was commitment, it was no wishy-washy, no flaky come and go as you please. You made a commitment to spirit and you stuck by it. We're missing a lot of that. A lot of people treat mediumship as another skill, ability develop. Oh, well, I'm learning a new language and I'm going to learn to play a musical instrument. And oh, I've got a few places on my tick list to go traveling to. Oh, and yeah, I'll develop mediumship as well. And you cannot approach it in that way. It has to be approached with much more discipline, much more commitment, much more. It's a sacred art. You've got to really treat it as something truly sacred. Otherwise, it will be limited in how much it unfolds. When you make the commitment to your work and your mediumship, you'll be surprised at how much it can unfold. And that's why I take you back to that class on spiritual development. It is so key. It really is. So, maybe in the future, I may do a talk on that, or I may do a video on that, possibly. Again, I don't know how much interest in that there is. I love mediums of the past, but I know that it's not always popular. So it's hard, isn't it? It's a hard one because how big's the audience? If you'd like me to do something on the teaching methods of the past versus the present, you can type a yes in the chat box. Let me know. See how many of you want to. Okay. So the next question is about EVP. What about those people you see using EVP devices? I never believe those stuff. It's not real mediumship. What are your thoughts on it? So I got 1 or 2 yeses. So EVP. Now, again, this is going to upset people, I know. I don't get excited by EVP. I've listened to loads of EVPs and I can't really hear it myself. I think there's a lot of wishful thinking goes into creating the words you see in the EVPs. You know, and I've done EVP. Similar with a spirit box radio where it scans all the different stations and words and things appear. It just seems awfully random to me. I don't see the intelligence in there that easily. Yeah, I know some people get ever excited with that sort of stuff, but I don't really. Yeah, it's an interesting tool to experiment with. If we're doing an experimental course, it's an interesting tool to do. But I actually believe that there are some people who do get very good results. I almost believe it's like a form of physical mediumship. That with certain individuals, they can get profound EVPs that I hear it. But the majority I don't. I know 1 or 2 people who as mediums, the EVP that they get on devices is excellent. But anybody else, it's just they just get, for what a better terminology, rubbish. So I think it's down to the individual. It's a form of mediumship for it to happen. It's a form of, if you like, a physical type of mediumship for it to happen. Same with instrumental transcommunication, which is messages on screens and messages on phones and things. But yeah, and the one where you have the radio, the spirit voice box, the spirit box. Again, sad to say that doesn't float my boat. It's not the kind of mediumship I get excited by. So not knocking it. If that's your bag, great, go with it. But if not, don't worry about it. So there's a few people who are interested in the past. Yeah, and the thing is, the EVPs and the talk boxes and all those things are part of paranormal investigations. And again, I don't get awfully excited about paranormal investigations either, if I'm truthful. Which again, is probably not what you'd expect me to tell you, but it's true. I was invited to do be the medium on paranormal investigations. And I said, well, what happens if I don't pick up anybody, if there's no spirits there? And they said, oh, just make it up. At which point I said, no, I can't do that. And if that's what the organisers expect of people, just to make it up, then I'm sorry. That tells me there's a degree of making up in the process. And I'm not saying everybody does, clearly not. I know that's not the case. But there were many programs on UK TV where clearly a lot of things were made up as well, and they have a bad rap. So yeah, I don't get excited by it, to be truthful. No. You know, and spirits not in graveyards or haunted houses. What you get in haunted houses is phenomena. What it is there's a residue, there's an echo, there's a residual energy that's left behind. But it's not spirit. It's just, if an event happens, if a traumatic event happens, it leaves an imprint, an energetic imprint, an energetic energy. If you were to go to somewhere where something very tragic happened, if you go to ground zero of 9/11, there's an energy there. If you go to a concentration camp, there's an energy there. And not everyone will be able to tune into it, but some people will be profoundly affected by it. And it's the same with haunted houses and things like that. I've been to many old religious sites and things, and old, very historic castles, forts, and some certain areas. There's a real energy I don't like. It really affects me. Energy can really affect me, but I don't believe it's haunted. It's just the imprint of the energy. That's all it is. So if you're enjoying it, do hit the like button. Do leave me a comment. Do subscribe to the channel. Make sure you don't miss out on any of my videos. Also, if you're enjoying this and you would like to make a donation, you can do that either through Super Chat, or you can do that through the PayPal link at the top of the chat pinned. It's also in the description as well, if you'd like to make a donation. All donations greatly appreciated. Okay, next question. Miss Silver, by attunement, do you mean turning your mind to spirit, being aware? Oh, lost the connection. So for some reason now I do appear to have lost a connection. And I've no idea why. None whatsoever. So can I just check that you can still see and hear me? I do have a backup cam that I've just switched to because my main cam's just gone down. Can you just type yes in the chat box if you're still hearing me loud and clear? Good. This is why we always need a backup. The camera normally runs for on 5 hours. But I don't understand why it's just dropped out. So, yeah. Let's keep going. So, yeah, somebody asked a question about donations. The PayPal link enables you to use credit card, debit card, PayPal account. So, yeah, so there's a link, as I say, there's a link at the very top, pinned to the top of the chat box. That little blue link, if you click on that, there's a PayPal link there you can use. All donations, as I say, greatly appreciated. If you want to donate through Super Chat, you can do that by clicking on the little $ at the bottom of your chat box. Again, you need to be signed into YouTube or Google to do that. Good. So anyway, we're able to continue. We have a backup cam. We can keep moving forward. The gremlins are in. Najija, always a pleasure to listen to you. Love the way you explain mediumship with no fluff. Thanks again. Very inspiring. So glad you enjoy it. And there's such a real need for good quality teachings to be out there. Such a real need for people to understand that mediumship does not need the fluff. And my teaching style is very, very highly influenced by Harry Edwards, who he approached spiritual healing and wanted to strip everything away that was fluff. And people used to stroke the energy field of the patient and flick the dirt and the grudge and the residues and the horrid stuff off. And they used to do all of that and flick it off. And he was like, you don't need that for healing. So, yeah, he abandoned that. He got rid of all these practices that were not needed and just focused it down to a core that really mattered. And I'm the same with mediumship. I take his strategy and say, does this add to mediumship or does it not? Like, certain practices, I've talked about a lot of practices with opening up, closing down, chakras, opening your chakras, rituals. Check out the videos I've got on those on the channel. Lots of them. But so much of that is just unnecessary. And I do mediumship quite happily without any of it. And the majority of teachers I've been taught by do mediumship quite happily without any of it. So do we need it? That's the question. Do we need it? No. So if we don't need it, we can let it go. Okay, so yes, let me come back to your question, Miss Silver 41. That was when the gremlins came in, wasn't it? Exactly, and all of a sudden the main camera disappeared. Okay, so attunement. Is this the same as turning your mind to spirit, tuning in, being in the power? See, there are many, many words, and a lot of it is words. And so the thing we've got to look at is mediumship is all about a blending with spirit. It's all about merging and blending our energy with spirit, our mind with spirit. And tuning your mind into spirit. When I talk about that, I'm specifically talking about when we're doing mental evidential mediumship. We move our minds to the spirit world, and if you like, we are a radio receiver, and the spirit world are broadcasting at different frequencies, and we need, as a medium, we tune into one energy, one person. We hold that link with the person on that frequency. That's what we're looking for. But if I'm talking about doing trance, we're talking about blending with spirit. We're talking about attuning to spirit and just then allowing them to influence us. When we're talking about healing, we're talking about attuning to spirit, allowing the healing energy to flow. When we're talking about inspiration, we're talking about blending and attuning to the spirit world to allow inspiration of ideas and thoughts and words to flow. So it's all to do with that blending, that tuning in, that merging of our energy with spirit. But being in the power, so when we sit in the power, we sit to be in the presence, the energy of spirit. Also, we call it the power of spirit. But when you're working doing mediumship, people will talk about, are you in the power or not? And what they're meaning is they use that to define the blend with spirit. Are you well blended with spirit or are you not? Are you closely blended with the communicator or are you not? Or he's not quite in the power. He's not quite blended well. So that's used in that way as well. So the terminology can get a little confusing. I see that. I get that. I do. So is attunement the same as tuning your mind in? Yes, but it's more than that. Attunement is that process of learning to blend and surrender with the energy and the power of spirit. And can you be attuned but not in the power? Yes, you can as well. When I'm doing trance, I don't need to be in the power. Spirit's doing the work, so I'm attuned to the spirit world. I ask them to help get me to the level of attunement that they need and surrender and let it be. So yes, it depends upon the activity you're doing. Good. It's a question from Keith. Were all the great mediums of the past clairaudient, and is the rarity of the mediumship of that quality today down to less clairaudience out there? No, not all the great mediums of the past were clairaudient. Some of them were, some of them weren't. The ones I talk about a lot, Gordon Higginson, Estelle Roberts, and Helen Hughes, all three had very profound clairaudience. Many other mediums as well, who were fabulous mediums, people like Joe Benjamin. Lots of good mediums in the past. I don't know if they did or did not have good clairaudience, because the problem you've got is there's very little written about the mechanics of how it worked for them. Gordon talks about it quite a bit. I found a beautiful article about Helen Hughes where she talked about how it worked quite a bit. I'm less aware of how it worked with Estelle Roberts because there wasn't much written in her book about it. So again, it's finding the information. But some of them were just able to see spirit, and some of them were able just to know. It's like clair knowing. For me, clair knowing is more profound. Possibly. Whereas no, it's not. I tell a lie. True clairaudience, where you hear it, repeat it, is amazing. That is probably the upper echelon, followed by clair knowing. For example, I was working in a church, and I just got into a part where the clair knowing just flowed amazingly. And I was talking about a man who was in the war, and I was explaining all about what he was doing, and I was seeing him, And I was talking about how he got himself this amazing Jeep, and it wasn't like anybody else's Jeep because it had a machine gun. And it turned out it was stolen from the Americans and had to be painted, and it was all fascinating. I was talking about his military pension, how terrible it was, and how the person in the audience had got the same pension. I had no idea how I knew all this. I was given accurate names, and it was just literally flowing out of my mouth, almost like automatic speaking, without me really figuring out what the heck was going on. And there's probably been very few links when I've truly been in that kind of profound energy where it just flows. And that, we call that clear knowing, where it's just, we just know it, and we're saying it and we know it, and we just don't really know how we get it. We just know it. And a lot of the great mediums of the past, they work from that place of clear knowing. So yes, a lot of the great mediums were clairaudient. Is the rarity of mediumship of that quality today down to less clairaudience? Is it logical that spirit would say, do you know what? Mediums of today, let's give them a much harder time. No clairaudience for them. Tough luck. You've just got to have the much more rough and ready psychic senses that are not as good. Let's give them vague psychic senses. Of course not. So for me, the mechanics, what we have has not changed. What changes is the way we approach mediumship, the way we teach mediumship, and the commitment and development that people bring to it. Yes, you've got to have a natural ability to a certain degree. But how come our best mediums of today, very, very few of them are what I would call true clairaudient mediums? There's something going on. And that's what I talk about in my Mediums of the Past course. And a great deal of it, I believe, is the commercialism. A great deal of it, the Mediums of the Past, it was a sacred spiritual act. They did it as part of their religion. They did it almost like a form of, in other religions, might be a form of worship, or like a form of, in certain religions, it might be, other people might do service. It's a form of service within spiritualism. All of them were spiritualists. This day and age, a lot of people say, well, I want to be a medium, but I don't want spiritualism. I'm a spiritualist medium. When people say, what kind of medium are you? I label myself, I am a spiritualist medium. I'm a spiritualist. And I believe my religion and seeing mediumship as an act of my religion makes it more powerful, makes it, it gives it an energy, a power, and it's part of a commitment as well to it that enables it to function more effectively, I believe. So I think a lot of it is what we as individuals bring to it. But think about, people say to me, mediumship has progressed, teaching has progressed. But on one level, I disagree, because we're not bringing forwards the quality, the caliber of mediums of the past. And yes, there's a lot more distraction in today's world. We have devices. I'm talking to you now. I've got a laptop here, a screen here, an iPad here. I've got 3 screens I'm looking at the moment. And I'm working through multiple cameras and lights and devices, mics, all sorts. Technology is wonderful. It is wonderful. They didn't have that in the past. It was much more simple. Circles were much more simple. We had so many more people giving of love for free in circles. In this day and age, you don't go to a circle where there's nobody there who doesn't want to develop. But in the past, you had people developing as mediums, with people there just giving their power, their love, their energy to the process. You don't get that anymore. You don't have those people. And plus, the classes we have today don't have room for any of that neither. A lot of mediumship was developed in these home circles. A lot of mediumship was developed with all this love and power being given by people who had no intent to develop. And when you think about it, if a power is created in the room, if it can be given to one person, it can be more powerful and effective. But if it has to be shared between 10 people who are going to work, it's less powerful. So, we say with developing trance, you don't really want to have too many trance mediums trying to work in the same circle. You want an idea to be sitting for one medium to give the power to enable them to develop better. And that's another area that we don't have anymore. And I think it makes a big difference. A lot of people will say it's the home circles that are missing, but it's not just the home circle. It's the energy that was brought to it. And it's the sacredness, the spirituality of it. I see a lot of people, there's a trend now to call yourself a spiritual medium, to move away from spiritualist and be a spiritual medium. But my guides have said that no one can call themselves spiritual. Only how you think, behave, and act determines the degree of spirituality you have. How you help others, how you offer yourself in service to others, how you work determines the degree of spirituality you have. So none can call themselves spiritual. That might upset a few. But I prefer evidential medium, spirit medium. Personally, I'm a spiritualist medium. Some people use psychic medium. Labels, you could use what you wish. But anyway, let me get back to the rest of the questions. Good question. I like that one. Tony. So Dominique, thank you very much for your kind super chat donation. Much appreciated. So Tony, some mediums seem to connect to loved ones better than others. Is this not only the medium being on the right frequency, but also the personality of the medium and the trust form with spirit? There are so many factors that determine the degree of connection. We have to develop ourselves. And as we develop ourselves, that determines the closer the connection we can get over time. Absolutely. But also, it's not the personality of the medium as such. It's the relationship you have with spirit. It's the way you work and the quality of the connection and blend you build. It's all about the blend. It's all about refining the connection and blend with spirit. It's about the work you've done to unfold the potentials within you. It's about the work you've done to hone your gifts. The mediums I know who are damn good mediums didn't get there by it just happening. They had to work hard. You know, for a while, I used to record all my sit-ins and listen to them back and listen to what was happening and see if I could work out where I could work better. I would get people to come along and watch me dem and to give me some feedback after the dem and to help me become a better demonstrator, to help me become more aware of what's happening when I'm working. I might say the same phrase 30 times in the demonstration. I'm not even aware of it. But when I get someone to watch me and give me feedback afterwards, I learn. And the best mediums I know have put a lot of self-development, a lot of time and effort into becoming good mediums. That's important to recognize. So, and then some links just work well and others do not. It's part of it's the connection. Are we, if you like, in the right attunement with the right frequency? Part of it is the personality of the spirit communicator coming forward. Are they a good fit for us? Are they a strong personality? Really strong personalities help. Really strong personalities are good to blend with. But we've got to be able to work with everybody, including the shy people, including the people who are not good communicators. So we shouldn't just ask for one. So hopefully that helps give you some insights. Miss Silver, so if I can't separate multiple spirits and reading, possible cause would not be being in attunement, not blending, or one of many things. Some days I can easily separate, but not always. So the thing is, simple point, ask for one. You know, it amazes me. People say, oh, I've got all these communicators and I don't know which one is which. I say, well, did you just ask for one spirit to work with you? One at a time, please. Did you set that as your ground rule? And a lot of people say no. So, okay, do it. You want to be clear when we're working with one and then working with another. Now, the problem you get is we can feel and sense the energy change, the energy shift, provided we've developed our clairsentience to a certain degree. But if we haven't, we're then relying upon the sitter's responses or the recipient's responses to say, I can't take that. That doesn't make sense to me. And I say, well, okay, I've got a sitter here. I've been giving you mum. You took all the information. All of a sudden, you're saying no to me. Do you know somebody else in the spirit world where these last three statements fit? Oh, yeah, that's my grandma. Okay. Is that mum's mum? Yes. Are the energies the same? They were very similar. Yeah. Okay. That's why I can't feel a shift. So we have to rely upon the responses from the sitter to help us to understand when that is happening. But if it's happening a lot, I would ask, set the intent one at a time, please. Not being in great attunement. Think about a radio station. If you don't tune the radio in well, yeah, you get some interference from other stations. I get that. That's another area it could be. So have we blended well? Are we connected well? Are we holding and sustaining our link? What happens is in the early stages, people work, they can get a reasonable link and then it just falls off over time. And then that's when you get the interference. So again, have you built enough power to sustain your link? So there's a whole, again, I could probably do quite a long video on all the different causes that potentially come in there. I missed the in-person circles. The energy was palpable. Yeah, there's a difference between online circles and in-person circles. Absolutely. I like an in-person circle. I love to demonstrate with my live audience. Demonstrating on Zoom is nice, but it's not the same. And the energy is different, and you're very much more reliant on your power. Same with a circle, you're very much reliant upon your own power. There's less power from the people in the room or the teacher. And in the Netherlands, it's difficult to get to a home circle. Difficult to get to a home circle in many places. There's not many home circles I know of in the UK neither. That's the thing. They're a fading. They are a fading activity, to be honest. And the ones that there aren't often promoted. People are invited to them. So again, you wouldn't find out about them easily. So Amar, when you do readings for people, have you ever been able to tell or have sensed that the sitter may also have the potential to be medium? Yes, regularly. But again, you've got to look at it. And I know people who are mediums who will say to the person in front of them, oh, you're a medium, you just don't know it. Or you're a medium, and they're not. And the problem is, what you have to say is, if you're interested in developing and putting the time, effort, and commitment in, there isn't a potential inherent within you that can be unfolded. But a lot of people come to see me and say, oh, I've told them I'm a medium. Let me get on platform, and they can't work. They don't know how to do it. They haven't had any training. Someone can tell you that you're going to be a great musical instrument player. Let's say guitar. You've got really good potential to play the guitar. You can't just pick up a guitar and be brilliant at it. It doesn't happen. You've got to at least learn some of the basics first and go through the process of practice and putting the time, the effort, the discipline. It's the same with mediumship. I think it doesn't help necessarily when people tell people, oh, you're going to be a fabulous medium. And invariably, the people I know who've been told they're going to be fabulous mediums don't make it. And one of the reasons they don't make it is because they expect it to be on a plate, and it's not. I don't think we do people favors when we say that to them. But equally, you can never tell somebody they can't be a medium. And the thing to remember is, if you go to my Mediumship Class 1 clip on YouTube, who can be a medium? Everybody has an ability to do mediumship to varying degrees. If it's there strongly, you could argue it's a gift. But we can all develop it to a degree, provided we've got the commitment, the motivation, the intent, the desire. I would love to do loads of different things, but I've only got a limited amount of time and energy. And I've got to determine where I put my time and energy. So there's loads of other things I would love to do in the world, but I haven't got the time or the energy to commit to them. So you've got to decide what is worthy of your time and energy and what comes from within, from the soul, that you want to do. That's the key. Dominique, are there any online circles at all? There are lots and lots of online circles, Dominique, loads. There are lots of Facebook groups dedicated to online circles. If you go and type in developing mediumship online, there's a whole bunch of Facebook groups, loads and loads of Facebook groups on online circles. So just type in mediumship circle, development circle in Facebook, you'll find lots of groups for it. There are a lot of SNUI offers online training. The Arthur Findlay College offers online training in Zoom. Most of the Arthur Findlay College tutors offer some form of online teaching. And most mediums at the moment are working online because right now there's very few places open, although more and more are now opening up. And how do you pick a good one? Very good question. People often ask me, can I recommend anybody? And the simple answer is no, because if I'm not being taught by them, I can't recommend them. And just because someone's a good medium does not make them a good teacher. That's another thing to bear in mind. Some people have a gift and an inherent ability for mediumship. And some people are reasonable mediums, but have a fantastic ability to teach it. So just because someone's fantastic at mediumship does not translate necessarily into fantastic teaching. Similarly, someone who's a reasonable average medium can be the most profound, fantastic teacher. So, and again, unless I've been with somebody and I know their teaching, I can't really recommend them for you. And what I do recommend is any of the Arthur Findlay College tutors. To become a tutor at the Arthur Findlay College, you've got to go through their tutor training scheme. I myself have been through the tutor training scheme. I'm an approved tutor of the college. You've got to be a certain standard to get through it. So I know that all the Arthur Findlay College tutors, you can rely upon the quality of their teaching. Absolutely. Okay. Does one of your courses cover keeping your power up? Is that a matter of sitting with spirit daily? So you've got to build power. You've got to learn to hold the connection. And a lot of that is like what I would call spiritual stamina. So sitting in the power is the tool through which we build power. And when we work, we build power as well, because it's like a form of spiritual stamina. But can I teach you to do it in a course? No, you've got to do it through practice. You've got to do it through the sitting in the power. But all my courses have that in as a theme, because the fuel for mediumship is power. So all of my teachings are based around that as a theme. So fundamentals of mediumship, meditation and sitting for spirit course, all of that brings it in. But ultimately, you got to do the work to create the power. You got to do the work to keep connected to spirit. You got to do the work to realize when you're dropping. You got to do the work to understand what causes you to drop out of it when you get a no. When there's not enough people in the audience and you're struggling to get in the power. Okay, I'm relying on the audience power. I need to do more of my own work. We've got to do that. Absolutely. So Dominique has asked, do I still teach at the Arthur Finney College? I'm an approved tutor at the college. I'm not currently booked on courses at the moment, but I'm still a tutor of the college. So any more questions? Any more questions? Last call for questions. If not, we can finish early. So again, if you've enjoyed it, do hit the like button. Do subscribe to the channel. Do hit the notification bell so you receive notification. If you would like to make a donation, it's always greatly appreciated. You can do that through the PayPal link at the top, or the link is also in the video description. And also you can do it through Super Chat if you would like to. As I say, all donations are gratefully received. I do this class for free, but if anyone likes to donate, I always appreciate it as a tip, shall we say. Or you can buy me a coffee. Anastasia, I appreciate your knowledge and the way you communicate. I also love your laugh. It gives me a genuine chuckle every time. Glad you enjoy it. We have to bring a bit of humour to this work as well, because if we were deadly serious, in the spirit world, I'm sure they have a laugh and a bit of fun all the time, and that's good as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. Enjoyment is good. So I think in the absence of any more questions appearing then, I'm going to bring it to a close. So thanks for your time. Thank you so much. Looking forward to the next one. Speaking of the next one will be at the end of July. I think at the moment the provisional date is Tuesday the 27th of July is the date I'm aiming for. If you can do that, that'd be great. But do check my YouTube channel nearer the time. About 2 weeks before, 10 days before, I'll make sure it's on the channel. So you can click on set reminder as well, and you get notified of it. Thank you, Keith, for that kind donation. Greatly appreciated. Thanks for that. But yeah, and then over the course of the next month, my next YouTube video will be Lost Souls and Earthbound Spirits, probably the most asked question, and I'll give my views on that. I'm also going to be talking about contacting famous people in the spirit world. That will be another video. So there's a few more to come through, and I've got a few already in the bag now that I've recorded when I was on holiday to keep myself out of mischief. So we've got a few building up. So I'm aiming to release one video a week. So do check out my courses product study program. As I say, if you do want to sign up for the latest course, Better Private Readings, that does start on the 18th of July. So a couple of weeks time. And that will be a really interesting course, really deep dive into readings. So if that sounds of interest, do sign up. There's still space on that if you'd like to join. So Miss Silver 41, thank you very much for your kind donation. That is really appreciated. All donations gratefully received. So I'm going to thank you all for coming. I'm going to thank you all for being a part of the live stream. And I shall look forward to seeing you all again next time. Take care.